Hello, this is Yehna.
And this is Jessie.
We are excited to be back with another episode. It's been a hot second for us since we recorded. But anyway, we wrestled through many different questions. We wanted to invite you and elaborate more on the question of how to navigate future romantic partners as an adult TCK.
Ooh,
Anyway,
spicy
so welcome and join us at
at
the
the table.
table.
I'm nervous for this one. I don't know why I'm
No
so
need, no
nervous for
need,
this one.
JK. It's pretty
No need.
spicy.
It is. We're gonna push through it. I know the title says how to navigate future romantic partners, and this is mostly, coming from a singles perspective, but for those of you who are in a relationship, disclaimer, you guys are totally a part of this dialogue too. We want your input. We want you guys to think about this and kind of help a girl out. It's not just for those of you who are single. We're just
Please
trying
help
to
us.
wrestle with this with everybody.
I
So
love
the
it.
first question being, how do you feel about being single and thinking about a committed relationship? Ah,
uh,
we want to run the other way. Well, I don't know about Yana, but for me, I definitely have commitment issues.
no, same girl, same.
Because, and I don't know if this is like an all TCK thing, but for me, it's like I know that when I commit, I know how I can show up, or I
Mm,
know the amount of commitment that it requires for me to show up. And I need to, my control piece wants to like know what I'm signing up for.
right.
And when I know what I'm signing up for, I can, or I'm like, okay, like I can slowly peel the layers of my onion. But whether or not, even though I know how to show up or how to know how to provide that level of commitment, I don't know whether I want to. Which sounds so bad, but it's like, oof, I don't want to have like this one toe in, like one foot in, one foot out, but I
Right.
kind of am. And I can't like fully just be
Engage.
fully engaged in it. What about you, Anna?
Exactly. I mean, we talk about this all the time because we found each other having similar mindsets and kind of similar struggles. It sounds terrible. It's so shallow. Anyway, but like Jessie was saying, I think just the idea of a casual relationship was very much a waste of time in our brain
Mm,
because we know kind of the pain of being half in and half out because of what we've experienced. We never wanted to ever inflict that on another, which is really funny because if you've heard our previous episodes, we've definitely done that to our friends or other relationships and have hurt
mm,
other
for
people.
sure.
Hurt people, what? Anyway, just kidding. Moving on. Because of that, we want to show up fully and we want to be there and engage and learn with them and grow beside our future, whoever that may be. But unfortunately, because of this fear that was instilled in us, and unfortunately, because it's been affirmed by people leaving our life, we definitely are faced with the challenge of wanting to or being able to show up 100%. So I'm not gonna lie, I don't really have an answer for this because it's still very much a fear that I wrestle with. Yes, I've come so far, but it's still that. It's still shimmering,
Oh, yeah.
simmering on the top.
Oh, and the thing is, I will say this though, because I have been in a committed relationship in the past. And prior to that too, this was still my mindset. And I think through that experience, I am proud to say that like fully committing and putting my all was worth it. Or like was I was able to feel the joy and the experience of being known. And as scary as that is, like that I think was such a valuable experience for me to
Hmm.
have. However, with that being said, though, I we're still in that but it doesn't work out or people leave or like people hurt you and then back to square one. So
Honestly,
still
Jesse,
growing.
you're amazing for even sharing that. I appreciate that because it's
Oh, thank
it's
you.
true. I think we sometimes forget, even in friendships, that it is so valuable to once you're
Mm,
in it, you're like, "Well, okay, I don't regret it though. This has been good." whether
Yeah.
it works out or not, it's we learn something from it. Thank you for sharing.
Right. Thank you. I just think the connection part is so, so valuable to experience. Just,
Hmm.
yeah, the depth of it. But next question is, would you want to continue a TCK lifestyle?
Hmm.
Because, well, I guess for you, Yana, you have been kind of moving around. Well, no, you just moved. But
Yeah.
I think when we think of like TCK lifestyles, it doesn't mean like moving every single year. It's just like being open to change and being open to like that multiculturalness, I
Hmm.
think is what we're more pointing at. But the question is, do you want to settle down or do you want to seek for a partner that would want the TCK life that you lived? How much does that come into play as you're looking for someone?
It's kind of the question of like how traditional lifestyle you want, or are you willing to kind of not exactly the footsteps of our parents, but almost along that umbrella of category, etc. If
Yes.
you know what I mean.
Yes.
Yes. Of course.
Yana, share us your experience.
Of course, with that said, this question of whether I want this is still very like up in the air. And I say that because there's just a million things that go in my brain. You know, I can play the scenario 100 million times, and there are pros and cons of what that would look like. But I know there's something I cannot let go of. With a lot of discussion and reflection, I know that my TCQ background is not something I'm willing to give up. As
Mm,
in, not that I ever can give up. It's like tied to my identity, but just like I cannot compromise someone not being able to understand and having that desire to understand my TCK background. It's not like, okay, I'm a TCK and you kind of get it. No, I need you to be able to sit with me and process through it, because this is unfortunately and fortunately, it's going to be a part of my growing experience till the day I die. And so if someone's not
mm,
able to enter into that space with me, I cannot be who I am supposed to be 100%. And it's really cringy for me to even say that, and very painful for me to say that, because it feels very coming out of a place of pride. But more than that, it's just
mm,
I know what happens when I neglect that. And
mm, mm,
it's like I know what it looks like to neglect me, and neglecting my TCK background is essentially neglecting who I am as a person. So
mm.
yeah, so yes, as long as I cannot give you a concrete answer, but that's definitely something I cannot let go of.
For sure. And it, again, we don't know who we're going to end up with. But the thing
Right.
is, I think you're more trying to get to the point of like, it's really important to me, and this is something I will not compromise. However, if someone were to not be TCK, that person needs to have that desire to understand that and to navigate that with you and to
Mm-hmm.
work through it with you, because you're not like, okay, the criteria TCK check.
Right. No,
It's,
yeah.
or if it's not there, you're not like, okay, cancel out, bye. So
Right. It's a matter
yeah,
of
that's
like
the tricky
dismissing
part.
it or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure. Because it's like it's a whole identity, like it's a culture in itself.
Welcome
Exactly.
to the dark side.
Ah, that's to the dark side.
My face is so red because it's like that took so many years to finally
Uh,
say that, to be able to say, guys, I actually do have an opinion. Okay,
I
moving
was
on.
gonna say, bold of you to be saying this in a podcast. I think that's the most opinionated thing you've put out on this podcast so far.
True. I am
Not gonna
sweating
lie.
profusely.
Yena's all red, guys, just to expose her. Okay, okay, okay. I'll share so that you can take a break.
Thank you. Moving on.
Moving on. Um, I think up until this point, I always thought that it needed to be another TCK. So I think I was, yeah, right there with you, Yana. But I think now that I think about it, I think I want someone that is more open to new experiences. But I'm scared that I won't be able to commit to something long term locationally. Like when it
Mm,
just strictly comes to like traditional or like moving around and having that like 3 or 4 year cycle like lifestyle. That feeling makes me feel trapped, I feel like. But as I'm starting to learn to build roots, especially here in Chicago. I'm starting to realize the joys of building roots and like
Mm-hmm.
actually relaxing and not feeling rushed to have to make meaning out of our relationship or to solidify it for the long term. I'm able to just sit and be present and just enjoy people and their company. And I think that's something I haven't been able to experience when I've been constantly thinking about what's next. So, in terms of relationship, I'm open to both, but will to be determined, right? Um,
All of this is like, let's see what happens now.
we'll see what happens. As much as I would love to have a shared TCK background with my future partner, I would just, like Yana said, want someone that is willing to understand and embrace the burdens that I've been carrying, not just as a third culture kid, but honestly as a missionary kid. I've
Mm,
actually been realizing the weightedness of missionary kids or PKs because recently, I mean, my parents just spoke at our church, like, you know, there's this element of like you're on the spotlight.
yeah,
You are having
true.
to, I think more the performance piece
Mm,
and people pleasingness and feeling like I have to have my life together. That aspect of my burdens have been more from
yeah,
my missionary side,
true.
my
I
MK side.
agree.
And so I think both of that coming into play, there's a lot to wrestle with. And I would want someone that's down to wrestle with that with me.
I agree. And
And
not before we move on to the next point, I did want to add, as you were saying, I just realized because even within TCKs and MKs especially, a lot of us, once we get into adulthood, we are so quick to wanting to forget everything because
yeah.
some of us do carry a lot of pain. And so it's really about, for both of us, I think what we're trying to get at is that we need someone who has a posture for learning because we realize the importance of that, and not having that in our life for so long and being our walls up and our hands held at arm distance with everything in life and how detrimental that was for us. We need someone who doesn't have that so that we don't fall back into that trap just within our own
Mm.
spiritual and personal growth. I know that can sound really strong, and I have a feeling later I'm going to try to edit this and I'm going to cringe at myself, but it's really about that posture for learning. And I don't just speak that for someone else to meet that criteria, but to really remind myself that we also need to be having that posture for learning about just life so that we can walk in humility. Anyway, sorry,
Wow.
moving on.
So valid. Dang, that's something I have to think about now. Oh my gosh. Good point, Anna. Good point. This will continue in our future episodes. We'll definitely bring it up later because there's more to that right there. Yana, tell us about how this ties in to even our previous episodes of showing
Mm-hmm.
up,
Mm-hmm.
occupation versus vacation. Like, how does that all tie together when it comes to
Right.
singleness and thinking about a future partner as TCKs?
Yeah. I think kind of referring back to our episode about showing up, it's really solidifying the confidence in us that we can show up in a serious relationship. Now that's like the big question. It's like, okay, now we kind of got the idea of that this is important within myself and for my family and for my friends. But now for someone that we can consider as quote unquote forever, we have this extra layer of fear. Is this person able to battle and carry the burdens that we're carrying? Kind of unfortunately for the rest of our life. And then because of that, we can't help but get into this imposter syndrome mindset. Are and ask the question of, okay, but are we really enough? Can we really be enough for them to want to stick around? And I know that is the lie from the devil, and we do our best to speak against it. But when we're like at the spotlight, this permeates our heart and our mind, and it's really hard to get out of it. I know, like some people are like, just stand up. Then it's like, when you're like in a 3 feet pool, and you're like, I'm sinking. Just stand up. Just stand up. You're gonna be fine. For the meantime, it really feels like it's 100 feet down and we're gonna drown. I know this doesn't really have an answer to our reflection, because we're still wrestling to this day. And that's why we wanted to make this podcast, because we truly want input and wisdom spoken over us about this, so that we know now this level 2 of showing up. What does it mean to show up? We're inching our way. We know we're growing, family, friend, but now what does that look like for now this one person?
Whoosh. And then it relates to our other episode of occupation versus vocation. We did say that we had like 2, 3 different podcast episodes coming from this one sermon that we listened to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's legit so true, because it's the question of how important is vision when it comes to it aligning with our future partner. And we think about that a lot, especially like Yehna and me, because our parents, both of our parents, and this is something we bond about a lot, but both of our parents, their visions aligned when it came to their hearts for ministry.
Yeah.
And that was modeled to us so vividly. And honestly, I feel extremely blessed that that's our case and that we got to witness that and still be a part of as they continue to share their ministry with others. It puts this emphasis on, wow, that vision really sustained and like carried and guided their marriage. That's something that I want myself, is what I think to myself. But it's an open-ended question. Like, how important is it? Because like we've seen both, right?
Right.
What do you think about that?
Exactly. I think it's just kind of, I'm sure this is multifaceted, but we're really just pinpointing 2 kind of differences. Is that a marriage where both partners are fully running with the same vision in mind. It might look slightly different because their roles are different, but they're running towards this goal. We're all running towards the same goal, but you know what I mean. And then there's this other aspect where one person has a strong vision and then the other is a cheerleader for the vision. And it kind of sounds like the same thing, but it's like this person is running, and then but then where they meet is not so much the vision, but more because they're committed to a relationship. And yes, both need to be committed to the relationship, but in a sense, one has a little more emphasis. And me and Jessie really want to emphasize that neither is bad or neither is better, but it's just that what in our life would work for us, And so, and how important is that? And how much do we need to press onto it? And if not, how else should we be praying? And so really it's just no answer for it. Just a call for help, SOS. Thank you, please. Anyone with more wisdom than us, which is pretty much more than half of this world's population. So it'd be amazing to just hear input from people who are in either aspect of this type of relationship or others, and just what prayers did you guys pray and what discussions led you to know that this person was the right person. And in the meantime that you are single, what did you do to study to grow deeper in love with Jesus so that you're better for another person? Yes, Jessie, you have something to say?
No, I was gonna go off of that point to kind of wrap up this episode. These are all things that we question and think about, but ultimately it comes down to really leaning into what God is tugging at our hearts for. And it doesn't matter like how ever much answer wisdom or like input or research or discussions we have, it ultimately comes down to like God, just the Holy Spirit leading us. And I really trust in that. And I think that gives me a lot of peace that I've never experienced before. And I hope that even for you guys, and even especially a lot of girls our age that have been to Christian schools and maybe your whole friend group is married or engaged, that's a tough situation to be in. And I know you can kind of feel like you're left behind, or you feel rushed, or you feel like, what is it that I'm missing here? But I just want to remind you guys, like, God's got his timing, not just for you and your timeline, but for that other person to be ready for you too. And I pray that we would just trust in that. You guys got this. We got this.
It's so true. We're here for you. Anywho, thank you for listening to kind of a spicy episode and just wrestling with us through some of these questions. And like we said, we're really serious. We would love to hear just your wisdom and input on those who are married and those who are navigating this in a relationship, whether you're married or dating. We would love to hear it because this is, as much as it's like an individual effort, because we're not marrying 100 million people together, but we are still working in a community to like better learn about relationship and committing to each other and walking together in the body of Christ. So really would love your input. And with that said, you can reach us on Instagram. You can DM us there, and just would love to hear that. And we are on Spotify and on YouTube, and we are excited to continue sharing with you all on our next episode. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.